All right, this is for Anne Marie Ray. If I murdered your name, I'm sorry. So you're asking basically, you feel there's something wrong with it, but you just don't know what. And so there's a couple things that I would say right off the bat. The first thing I think right off the bat is if you're going for that sense of like, not impending like doom, but if you're going for that intensity, I think the perspective and your camera angle is wrong. So I'm going to just kind of draw over what I'm going to show you real quick here. So if you are drawing from the kind of focal point of this human, what you want to do is you want to basically put the human down here, and with the beast, then you can actually draw the cliff's edge over here. And then with the beast so tall and so big, what you're going to do is you're going to draw the underside of it. So the think of that Jurassic Park moment where the beast is like the dinosaur is just towering over, and so having this large shouldered kind of emphasized person or creature, just where it's big and just kind of gets bigger as it comes towards you, that's going to kind of sell you a little bit more. And even putting this one back here and bringing it forward, and where it kind of pushes forward like that, that's going to kind of sell your idea more. Just having your idea look from far below the subject matter. So that's the first thing I would tell you right off the bat, is to change your composition. But not having to do that, then the next things come into a couple of different aspects. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my transfer, which is pen pressure on both sections, and then I've just got kind of a weird, like kind of a little teardrop shape that I make, and that's my painting brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of define your layers. Everything kind of blends in the background here, and so what I would do is, starting off with this kind of waterfall, or this I don't know if this is kind of an ice area or whatever you're trying to accomplish here. Um, I would let's go and start with some more defined shapes. And so what I'm going to do is push the defined shapes a little bit more. So we've got, I think, let me see here. Let's go here. So I'm going to grab these defined shapes, and I'm blocking out these really dark kind of shapes where the sun is not kind of reaching everything else. And so maybe something like that, something along the lines of here. And I'm just emphasizing this idea that the sun is behind things. And that doesn't mean that you can't add in that flavor of, kind of emphasis of, this shape wall back here. And we can easily go in and add in like little bits and pieces here to kind of emphasize that idea. But by defining that shape a little bit more, it's going to push the silhouette of your beast a little bit more. And so you can see, going from here to here, going from here to here, now I've kind of defined the overall landscape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this brush here, and I'm going to actually just move that one ahead. So with this shape here, this is your main green area here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to again simplify that shape. Let me undo that, and let's hit Control R to get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of simplify your existing shapes. And so you can see, by simplifying the existing shapes like so, that gives you more more focus on the less chaos things. And so if you look here, you've got a lot going on. I mean, between these two pieces here, you've got all these complex shapes in the background, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to simplify your external shapes so that you can simply kind of give you kind of that idea of now things are like, you know, now things are like much more very simple, but still they're very simple, but they're defining your body shapes a little bit more. Okay, and so I think that's the other aspect right now is you've got too much going on. You need to simplify some of the ideas. And again, you know, bringing down to this shape here, you've got a lot of this chaos, spiky area kind of going up. And what you want to do is you want to, again, simplify your shapes. Very, very, you know, kind of almost like something like this. And I'm sorry I'm painting over your name, but I'm just putting in this simple patches, and what that's doing is that's defining areas. So it's I'm defining the idea of green. I'm defining the idea of, you know, plant growth, and so what that's doing is, you know, basically giving you much more area to kind of work with and kind of develop through. Okay, so once that's done, I'm going to just grab an oddball brush here. I've got, let's see here. Let's go with something like this. So I'm going to take those existing colors, make it a little bit bigger, and kind of emphasize those colors in place. And so you can see how by taking something simple like a one-sided brush like this, so just a little plant brush, I'm now emphasizing what's already there. So I'm giving me the idea of detail without actually putting in any more detail. You know, I've got the idea now that, hey, there's, you know, this plant has been this you know, this plant is growing all over the place. I get that. I understand that. You don't have to like spell it out to the reader with all the kind of paint and stuff back and forth. So that's another aspect that you wanna sit down and think about is, you know, how much do you really need, how much chaos do you need in there versus how much do you really need to show. So that's the next thing. So I'm gonna go back to my little brushy here, and all right. So then I'm gonna work with anatomy, and I think that's your other issue is your anatomy just feels a little bit off. So I'm gonna show you what I would do to fix it. So I'm going to just go back to, we'll go back to green here just to kind of contrast the colors. So, but this idea here is fine. So you've got a good head going on, but then you want to look at what you're actually trying to accomplish. So you've got kind of the body of a gorilla with the head of a bison. And a gorilla is a lot more like a human than a figure. They have more of an arching shoulder system though, and so that shoulder is big and wide, and so you've got like your upper shoulders, you've got your pectorals here like so. You want to emphasize the idea of this, how big this character is. And so getting your muscle groups, even though they're covered in fur, those muscle groups are going to really define your character as a whole. And so just putting those emphasized points in there are going to give you kind of that much more interesting character. So you can see here how I'm painting out that character and making it much more kind of interesting. And so to fix that from a paint over standpoint, I'm going to go here and I'm going to kind of emphasize the bigger areas. So I'm going to put out, you can see just putting out some of this here. Going to add in kind of some darks there. Let's take some of these lights here and kind of emphasize those. And we can even add some of this dark gray to kind of emphasize. And you can see how just by adding a little bit more oomph to the front here, that adds more color. And so use the form to paint a little bit more detail in there. We're just kind of roughing that idea in there. But you can see already how just adding a little bit of that emphasis makes a huge difference. So I'm going to grab some of this up here and kind of bring this over here as well. And we can silhouette that out a little bit more, and we can bring in some of that. So again, you look at the anatomy of a gorilla to give you that emphasis of what's going on. And then again, if you've got something like that. So the same thing goes here. You want to get that gorilla body going on in the same kind of shape here. So that's another aspect that you want to fix. So again, she's against shadow, so you don't want to have this bright light. You want to have a nice rim light. And so again, I'm bringing up this big torso, bringing over the bigger joints and things like that, and use shadows to kind of emphasize what you're trying to paint here. So you can see here, now I've separated the forearm from the rest of the body, where it was before it was kind of this, um, kind of blended in with the other part of the body. And so then what you want to do is you can emphasize that with those highlights. So then you can put in, this nice silvery kind of shape going on that silhouettes the body. You can bring some of that silhouette up over here as well and kind of emphasize that idea. So again, and if you're struggling with something like this, get a maquette, get something, make a clay sculpture, something that shows you the form so that you can light it up and take a lot of the work out of the piece. So I think those are the things that I would tell you to kind of work with, is get a little bit less detail everywhere else and push more detail into your main figures. All right, I hope that helps you out.